Hello everybody, so here is Lena Delir again, and I'm here to talk to you about INFJ versus ISFJ. I wanted to make this video, I've been wanting to make this video for quite a while now, and last night I've received a request for this specific split, so here I am and I'm going to proceed about it. First things first, these two types have some characteristics in common and some characteristics that are different. The first thing to say are the characteristics in common. The characteristic in common is mainly extrovert feeling. We're talking about extrovert feeling and introverted thinking because both ISFJs and INFJs have extrovert feeling auxiliary function and introverted thinking as tertiary function. What does it mean? It means that both types use extrovert feeling to express the information coming from their dominant function. So, what you're going to see externally is going to be expressive types of people that talk via emotions. INFJs are called also lyricists, for example, and ISFJs are masters of entertainment. So we're talking about people that speak with emotions, people that are emotionally expressive, and that can deliver concepts via emotions. One thing that Jung says about extrovert feeling that I enjoy a lot reading is that extrovert feeling is the function that basically loses touch with the individual and gets lost in the emotions of the moment. So basically it's a here and now function that works in the moment and loses touch with the self to get absorbed and be involved in the external environment. That's one of the aspects of extrovert feeling. Extrovert feeling is also the function that places others in front of the self. Both INFJs and ISFJs are in socionics FI demonstrative. It means that they are the types that are ready to take the blame for anything, especially in a debate with someone close that they care about. They're going to be ready to take the blame for anything that is going on, that the blame is theirs or not. They're going to take the blame on the spot. So this is the feeling component of this two types. Very expressive type of people that are normally very joyful and that enjoy lightening the atmosphere. But we're also talking about introvert types. So we're talking about people that are going to be more absorbed in themselves than actually out there and extroverting. So how does the extrovert feeling in the auxiliary position actually work? For ISFJs, it's a matter of fixing situations on the spot. So basically, they look at the environment and how the environment, the emotional environment is in the moment, and they're going to act in the moment to influence the environment positively. They do not have the foresight that INFJs have, and they do not look ahead. What an ISFJ is interested in is what is going on right now. And here is one of the differences. INFJs instead are interested in what the emotional atmosphere is going to be and is going to develop in the near future and in the distant future. So what an INFJ is going to do is use their extrovert feeling to create the best emotional atmosphere and fix the emotional atmosphere for the near future or the distant future. So that's one of the first differences, but anyway, the use of the function is equal. Both types use extrovert feeling to fix the situation, to fix the emotional environment, to adjust the emotional environment to a positive state. One little trick both types can fall into, and this is because of extrovert feeling in the auxiliary position, is that they tend to destroy relationships in order to have something to do with their creative function to fix to fix relationships. So basically, they tend to say only part of what is going on to one person, and only part to another person, and only part to another person, which is going to create some clashes, which the INFJ and the ISFJ are going to be able to fix with their extrovert feeling, creating the emotional contagion atmosphere. So basically, they destroy to create. In socionics, the auxiliary function is also called the creative function, and as a creative function, it's used to create. So these two types have in common this passion for creating positive emotional atmospheres at the cost of first destroying them. The tertiary function of INFJs and ISFJs of both types is intuitive thinking, which means that they have the ability to philosophize, to categorize things in their heads, to think independently, and not follow the mass, because both of them are extrovert thinking vulnerable, and extrovert thinking is mob mentality. So both types are allergic to mob mentality and they think independently. But introvert thinking is one of their weaker functions, and it's also partially subconscious. So they're going to be very weak at this thing, and they're going to tend to rely on other people. And if if one of them has a particularly strong extrovert feeling, like myself, they can fall in the trap of relying completely on someone else for categorizations, coming to conclusions, and such things. That's a mistake. That's a mistake. No good. That's something not to do. Anyway, yeah, that's intuitive thinking. They both types have this passion for abstract logic and abstract thinking. They're going to get caught up in debates, in philosophical debates, or in debates in which comparisons and categorizations are mostly applied. This is one characteristic that we can apply to all types that have a thinking function in the third place. They're going to be attracted to logic conversation. ESFPs and ENFPs are going to be attracted to concrete logic, to how the world works. Whereas INFJs and ISFJs, which are the types we're talking about now, are going to be attracted to abstract logic, abstract thinking, philosophy, and such things. So basically, anything that is created within the mind, so metaphor, comparisons, anything philosophical happening within the mind. One thing for which TI, intuitive thinking, is responsible is, for example, the creation of systems like the MBTI in the first place, and socionics. These systems are created by intuitive thinkers. Linguistics is another area in which that is developed by intuitive thinkers. One of the main exponents of linguistics is, for example, Noam Chomsky, and we know that Noam Chomsky is an intuitive thinker. So basically, INFJs and ISFJs have a strong attraction for all of these areas, all of these realms of the thinking that have been created by intuitive thinkers, because they give them the possibility to grasp to take the intuitive thinking of someone else, so the abstract ideas and the abstract logic of someone else, and try to apply them in a guided way. And that's because their intuitive thinking is weak. So here we have the similarities between INFJ and ISFJs. Now let's talk about what is different in these two types. What is different is, first of all, their dominant function. INFJs are future-oriented, and their thinking is time-related. NI is called in socionics the time-related function. Remember that I applied socionics definitions, so if they do not stick precisely with what you read about MBTI and you want to apply my typings, you will have to accept my definitions. So, and they work. They work. What I can tell you is that my definitions work in the real world. So INFJs have this time-related dominant function that is also cause and effect. So if you think about it, cause and effect is time-related because the cause comes before the effect. So basically, INFJ's primary function works on creating cause and effect chains. So this brought to this and that brought to that. But if that had happened, then this would have happened and that would have happened. This is the way of thinking of INFJs. And their primary function is introverted intuition. Whereas ISFJs have introverted sensing as their primary function. Introverted sensing in ISFJs, introverted sensing in ISFJs is basically the function that relates to the internal state of the body. So ISFJs have a strong ability, and their dominant function, their greatest ability, is that to be in tune with their own physical sensations and with the physical sensations of other people. That makes them extremely good at creating entertainment, creating visual arts, creating food, and anything revolving around the realm of relaxation. They can create coziness for others. They can create an environment of relaxation, calm, and coziness for others from a physical point of view. That's what introverted sensing does. Introverted sensing is a focus on the internal state of the body. So basically, an ISFJ is going to be able to define if someone is hungry, is going to be able to define if someone in the environment needs a blanket or needs something warm to drink, if someone is going to catch a cold, or this is what introverted sensing does. I have an example that is unluckily on an ISTJ. And this example is my uncle. He's an ISTJ, and when my grandfather used to get sick, he was always the first saying, he used to say something on the line of, the elderly is sick, do something, the elderly is sick. ISTJs are kind of direct, and they do not think of how people could take things. So that's how they express themselves. And it was anyway funny. I always found him funny. But anyway, an ISFJ, which I have a cousin who's an ISFJ. She's actually one of my favorite cousins. We have a very strong bond. She's my eldest cousin, and we have a very strong bond. So INFJs and ISFJs tend to get along together pretty well. Basically, they reinforce one another. They help one another with their role function because they have functions reversed. So an INFJ has SI role function, which is the function in which they would want to be good at, but they can't. And an ISFJs will have an I as role function, which is the function in which they would want to be good at, but they're not. So the two types get along very well because they help each other. And my cousin, for example, is the one that always brings shit tons of sweets for Christmas, like cakes and pastry of any sort. She married a guy that has 6 children, and she is great as a mother. She always worked as a babysitter, and she actually works. She's actually a surrogate mother, a substitute mother for these kids that are living with her, and their mother is still alive and living far away. And she's basically growing them up. And she's doing a great job. And she always knows who likes what, and she has a special meal ready for each of them every single day. So that's an ISFJ. An INFJ instead has the characteristic of living your emotional states with you. So basically what the ISFJ does is creating your coziness around you and a positive physical environment around you. physical and emotional environment. Whereas an INFJ is more of a psychologist. We're more psych-oriented. We're more mind-oriented. We see the emotional states in people. We see what makes people tick, what makes people do what they do, why people choose one thing rather than another. We have the ability to see into people's mind and to operate in a way that helps the person improve, grow, and get better with themselves and potentially solving issues. We are, I act as a psychologist for the families, and I acted as a psychologist for the family in many circumstances. And that's a characteristic of INFJs. INFJs and I has this characteristic of looking for cause and effect. So an INFJ has the ability to see what caused a specific reaction in a person and to understand what generated that reaction that brought to the external behavior. And an INFJ has the ability to help the person go through this cause and effect chains and actually understand what makes them react the way they do and potentially help them fix the problem. That's what an INFJ does. So very similar types, but they do very different things. A funny thing that I could bring up about these two types that makes them different is the reaction to power and strength. In front of someone very forceful, very decisive, like an ESTP, for example, the INFJ will be extremely attracted and potentially submissive. They will see the display of power and they will be attracted to the display of power. Whereas the ISFJ will listen to the ESTP to the end, and at the end of the whole story, she will jump out of the blue and say something like, "He was very nice, was it?" And maybe the guy was yelling like crazy. That's because they ignore extrovert sensing. They completely ignore extrovert sensing. Like, someone is yelling, screaming, and being extremely decisive and extremely imposing, and an ESTP being hyper-aggressive, an ISFJ is not going to see that. They will completely oversee the reaction. That's a characteristic of the ISFJ. Whereas the INFJ will be attracted, they will want to hug the ESTP, they will want to interact with the ESTP, they will probably want them to be their protector, they will probably want the ESTP close. They will have this sort of attraction, and that's because of extroverted sensing in the inferior position in INFJs. INFJs are SE inferior. Another thing that extroverted sensing does that ISFJs completely ignore, because SE is the ignoring function of ISFJs, is the reality the way it is. So basically, this rock is hard. This glass is cold. This is stuff that an ISFJ will not care about. Whereas for the INFJ, this stuff is gold. Because thinking that this glass is cold tells the INFJ that the glass has been standing there for a while, that nobody was touching it, that there was no liquid within it, and that it probably needs to be brought in the kitchen, like I should have done for a couple of weeks now. Anyway, and that's my introvert sensing role that jumps out of the blue, talking about it. So anyway, anything in the real world that is concrete reality is a reason for the INFJ to create a cause and effect chain. For example, if you enter a room and you see a dream catcher on top of a bed, an INFJ will, the first thing that will cross an INFJ's mind is, are you having nightmares? And that's cause and effect. Because if you have a dream catcher on your bed, chances are that you either believe it and you're having nightmares, or you simply like dream catchers and you keep it on your bed because you like the idea of showing people that you have nightmares, and you probably want to look like someone cool because of these nightmares that you fake having. So these are the two reasons why someone could have a dream catcher on their bed. And that's why what an INFJ would do with the concrete reality and the simple idea of this thing hanging there. Whereas ISFJs have extroverted intuition as an inferior function. So they are attracted to anyone proposing new things, new ideas. They're attracted to very inventive people. Their dual is the ENTP. So they're attracted to very, very witty and very inventive people. So basically people that can come up with gazillions of ideas a second. One thing that an ENTP once told me that he liked in ISFJs is that an ENTP just jumps out of the blue and goes like, let's go on the roller coaster, and the ISFJ will run after them, happy to go because they're looking forward to having someone next to them, pulling out ideas of whatever sort. One thing that I see in my cousin that is an ISFJ is that she enjoys listening to people having hyper crazy ideas. It doesn't matter to her if the ideas can be implemented or not, or which way they can be implemented. She's probably good at coming up with the answer to that. She loves to listen to people fantasizing about things, not abstractly, just without any logic, but she enjoys hearing people talk about very abstract ideas that coming from basically potential things that could be built, or potential things that could be implemented, even potential new programs. When my father has a passion for computers, and when he gets started with explaining how this and that works, and my INTP uncle jumps in, and my INTP uncle starts talking about how that program could be changed into this or that, that's when my cousin's eyes start getting brighter, and she gets enlightened, and she listens to everything my INTP uncle says. And they are attracted to extrovert intuition. So any potential idea expressed via logic and based on logic, they're going to be attracted to. Whereas INFJs are extrovert intuition ignoring. So basically, when my uncle and my father get started with that kind of stuff, my ears get closed and I don't hear a single word what they're talking about. And I started having the monkeys playing in my head. And that's because that's something potential, and possible things to be built are not my focus. I ignore that kind of information. I'm more interested in what actually is, and what is actually there in the moment, what can be used there in the moment. I do not live in the moment. I project the use of that thing in the future. That's an INFJ. Anyway, these are INFJs and ISFJs. ISFJs, sweet mommy, taking care of the whole family. Very nostalgic type, very, very nostalgic type. INFJ instead, psychologist, looking ahead and looking to the future, basing their intuition on the concrete reality. This is the difference between these two types. I hope it helped, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.